Hey guys, it is Channel Weird. I'm Clyde Lewis. Welcome to another fantastic show. And I say that because once again I have a remarkable guest, someone who is near and dear to my heart. And the reason why is because there are a lot of people in my life that inspired me to be the weird guy that I am. And it was late nights. I was young, late nights on a UHF. When UHF just started out, there was a TV show called Weird TV, and I used to watch it religiously out of a radio station. A television station out of Ogden, Utah. It's KOOG, and I didn't know anything about where this was coming from, and not only that, but it was coming in kind of fuzzy because, of course, UHF was new and it was coming in fuzzy. Come to find out that this Weird TV show was produced by a guy named Chuck Serino, and I was so impressed with what Chuck was doing. I had to write him and tell him this is amazing stuff. And there was a time where they had the UFO museum here in Portland where Chuck, I finally got to meet him, and I was just so happy to be able to meet him. And it is so awesome now that I'm able to have him on the program. Chuck Serino, who is a television producer, an amazing guy. He even scored a number of good, horror films and sci-fi films. Chuck, welcome from the comfort zone here in Portland. Welcome to Channel Weird.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It was great to hear that introduction. We don't think about Weird TV that much anymore. So it's interesting to hear you say that. And I remember our meeting. at the UFO Museum. It's still a set that we could re-release and show at some point.
Yeah, I think I saw the report that was done actually on the internet, and I was really impressed with how it came off. It's too bad that the UFO Museum didn't last that long because it was a great little meeting place for all the weirdos out there. But I wanted to go back to Weird TV because I think a lot of people who haven't seen it, nor did they have the chance to experience it, need to know that there was a show that was a cut above, and it was how UHF was new, and it was a show that was on a UHF channel, and it kept me up at night because I just was fascinated by all of the weird stuff that I saw. And it was anything from the Burning Man festival. I didn't know anything about Burning Man until I saw it. I didn't know anything about these cars that people make, and I see them all over Portland now.
Art cars, yeah.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about how you were inspired to do Weird TV.
It started, it goes back to when the Illuminati contacted me in 1982. And I'm not kidding. I am sort of kidding. Back in 1982, these people they called themselves government agents. They took my wife and I out to dinner, and they said they wanted to make a documentary about the Mark of the Beast. And I said, "What are you talking?" I didn't know anything about this. Well, that all ended. They disappeared for some reason, but it was stuck in my head. What is this Illuminati and the Mark of the Beast? I had to investigate. Right. So about 3 years later, I tracked down Robert Anton Wilson. And at the same time, he wrote the Illuminati trilogy, which had nothing to do with the Illuminati. It was a science fiction story. I didn't know that. Right. So basically, I bought a Hi8 camera, which is when the Hi8s first started coming out. No one had video cameras back then. It was just like people who wanted to go out and buy a Hi8 video camera. So I bought a camera. I went and interviewed him. And that started everything for Weird America, which was a TV show I was trying to sell that would just be me, traveling the country, finding weird people, weird things, weird stories, and telling those stories. Well, that didn't quite work out. I pitched it a few places, but then I met Todd Stevens, who was it Major Dad? Was that the name of the series? I think he was producing it.
Yeah.
And then he got a job producing a TV series called Friends. And it was brand new. And he said, "Chuck, let's buy some satellite time and do this whacked out TV show. I'll pay for the equipment and you go out and just do it. And we'll put a bunch of people together. We all worked for free for like 6 years to aggregate stuff." And we were with another gentleman involved with not only Todd Stevens, but Arthur Maturo. And Arthur was in charge of finding weirdness. He actually tracked down the UFO Museum for us in Portland. And he would send me out on little missions here and there. And my wife and I we would get in the Land Cruiser the blue one that you see at the beginning of the series, and I would wear this exact hat,
Mm-hmm.
and we would go out looking for weirdness. That turned into aggregating, collecting unusual films from people we met along the way. And that's how Weird TV started. It just sort of overflowed with content that there was no place to show at the time. There was no YouTube, right?
No.
You couldn't just put stuff up. So we found those videos and put them together and made Weird TV.
And it seems as though that, it's the comfort zone was this like Land Rover that you were driving. And I mean, were you going coast to coast trying to find this weird stuff?
I was going wherever I could drive without leaving. I couldn't go more than 2 or 3 days away from LA because I had jobs here. I was scoring movies, and I would do Weird America or Weird TV on the times when I was on hiatus. So I never made it all the way back to Florida or North Carolina or Pennsylvania, but I did get as far as Arizona, I think. The dream was to travel everywhere, and I still have the dream. I would love to go out there and find weirdness. I mean, think of the United States of America is a little over 200 years old, and we're a free country. And that's what Weird America was about finding how people were exercising their freedom in weird ways, because it's not like any other country. So that was kind of like our thrust. And we would try to travel everywhere we could, but we didn't get everywhere.
I just remember some very vivid things that I remember from Weird TV, like the hunting where they'd shoot at stuffed animals. I came
Burning
up with
Man.
Yeah, they were shooting at stuffed animals, and it was hilarious because I came up with this idea when I was doing radio at the time for the Muppet Hunt. As they going on, these Muppets were being chased down by hunters and being shot, and I just came up with that idea because I was watching Weird TV, and everyone was saying, "Where are you getting all your ideas from?" So there's this late night show. I tell you, I come up with these weird ideas because of the weird late night show. And it was really awesome. What really impressed me was when I did get a hold of you and you actually dedicated one of the shows to me.
Yeah.
Because I wrote you and it says, "This is for Clyde at KOG." And I was like, "Oh my God, I've made it." That's what I thought. I made it because,
we were family operation. We were not network. We had no funding coming from anyone that made decisions except for us. So we could do anything we wanted. And then we got syndicated in half the nation, and we were in millions of homes. And here we were, a little mom and pop TV show being syndicated everywhere, which is an impossibility now. You can't do it. They have control over everything. So
there was a time, I don't even know when it was, when everything kind of congealed in this weirdness. And I don't exactly know when it was. It's like there was a time where I was being exposed to things like Negative Land out of Berkeley. I was being exposed to the Church of the Subgenius. I was being exposed to
Fire Sign Theater.
Yeah,
Fire Sign Theater.
Fire Sign Theater. Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing. Fire Sign Theater is acquired taste for some people, but I was into Fire Sign Theater. I was into all this weird stuff, and nobody understood. I mean, it's like I was the first kid on my block to listen to Kiss. I was the first kid on my block to have a Devo record. And
ahead of your time. You're ahead of your time.
And I just felt like that. I gotta focus this into some way, and that's why I came up with all these ideas for a radio show. That I said I want a radio show that is going to be weird or out there. And I was trying to find my find my position or what I wanted to be. And of course, Art Bell was doing the strange stuff too at the time. I figured, but I want to do something that's a little odd, and that's why I do that kind of material. But I also add to the show with what I call mental collages, because these types of things remind me of some of the weird stuff that I saw on Weird TV. And Shadow Stevens, that's another one. I worked with him. I worked with Shadow.
Oh, you did? I'm still working with him.
Are you? Yeah, I worked with him when I worked at a place called MBG, and he was doing this commercial. He had this obligation to them or something to do commercials, and I get on the phone with him all the time. I even brought up Weird TV. I said, I remember Weird TV and what you did for. And what was that relationship there? I just want to know what that relationship was.
Oh, all right. So you mean the relationship between Shadow and myself?
Exactly.
Oh, you didn't grow up in LA, so maybe you don't know about the Federated Group commercials. In 1984, Shadow was working, I think, at K-Rock, and he got an account to do TV commercials for the first stereo store called the Federated Group. It was like Best Buy, except it was the first of its kind. Okay. So he hired a group of us weirdos to make the commercials. And if you go on YouTube, you will see the beginning of Weird TV. And that was the federated group Weird TV. They're not Weird TV, but they were the commercials that very much inspired what we did on Weird TV in many ways. So go on YouTube, look for Federated Group commercials with Shadow Stevens, and you'll see what I'm talking about. We made these commercials for 4 years, and then we went to Cinemax and said, hey, can we have some money for a comedy experiment? And they gave us $80,000. And we went ahead and made a TV series called, a TV pilot called Shadow Vision. Now, if you notice, it's on Weird TV. Parts of it are in Weird TV. Mm-hmm. Shadow Vision was a Cinemax comedy experiment that Shadow owned, and then I licensed it from him for Weird. But that was the connection, and that's why Shadow is the voice of Weird TV, because we had a long history. We still had a long history. I mean, I'm scoring his radio show now, Mental Radio. So we're still working together.
I think that what is going on right now. Now is a great time to have a renaissance of this type of thing. And the reason why I say that is because, we're at a time where we're just so low in our morale and our mentality and our psychology that I think we need to find a way to get our yayas out. And that would be to, get a hold of some of the weirdest stuff, because people are making weird things in lockdown. People are coming up. I've seen some people that I've associated with make videos and they go nowhere. Or I've seen things like on TikTok or somewhere else where you see these funny videos.
TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok is what Weird TV was, but it was on TV.
It is. Yeah, I just aggregated some videos from TikTok and put them on the Weird TV site on Facebook.
Yeah,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say it's like the inspiration is kind of slowly creeping into the zeitgeist now, and I just. And it's like I said, there was some time, and I can't put my finger on it, where all of this was happening, where probably started about 1975 or 76, and I was too young to get up on it. But then as I got older and as I got into radio and I started noticing all of this, I don't know what you call this, abstract art or, abstract TV or abstract radio, I was very impressed with it. I was always trying to find a way to be either funnier or crazier or create audio that I know would, drive people crazy. I remember one time I used a dentist drill in one of my presentations, and it was just effective enough to get people to just want to freak out.
Yeah, the sound of a dentist drill is one of the scariest sounds on earth. Yeah. You tapped into something special there. Other things from the mid 80s from the 80s that came with the Cacophony Society, which is the reason that I found so many places in Portland was through Cacophony. Right. And they, as you know, they're in Portland, they're in San Francisco and Los Angeles. And the Santa Rampage came out of that as well. If you're familiar with that, of course, it's on Weird TV.
Right.
And then, so that was a renaissance. That you're absolutely right.
He just needs to come back. And and that's the thing, though, is I worry sometimes, because I remember I did a show with Ivan Stang of the Church of the Subgenius. And I remember it was like many years I didn't do a show with him. And then I brought him back, and it was after 9/11. And it seemed to me that irony had died, that nobody understands the idea of irony. Nobody understands the idea of, putting something that is, I guess you could say, pleasant with something that isn't so pleasant, putting it in a situation where, well, that's odd, that's abstract. People had a hard time dealing with that. But I think now it's a part of rebellion. It's a part of what we would call culture jamming, if you will. I mean,
culture jamming, one of my favorite terms.
Yeah, jamming the culture rather than canceling the culture. It's cancel culture is so abrupt and so stupid. But when you take the culture and you jam it and you go
twist it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you take a McDonald's logo and you change it to say things like Death Burger or something like that, where you're actually telling the truth here. It's really funny.
You just hit on it. It's telling the truth about the fraud or whatever that thing is you're wanting to tell. It's like a cigarette. I know that the Liberation Billboard Front, I think that's what they're called, headed up by people I cannot mention, Liberation Billboard Front. Yes, they would alter giant billboards in San Francisco.
Right.
And that was sort of the beginning, not the these were cacophonists from the Cacophony Society, but they were doing it on a massive scale. And it's still happening. If you really watch carefully to billboards, there are people altering them even today.
Yeah, I mean that's. I think that's one of the reasons why, and I always I always find myself, sounding bitter rather than being more creative about it. But the media itself, I think, needs this type of panning in a way, because you look at the two sides of the story, and the middle ground is the middle ground where you give the finger to both sides, and you say,
Yes,
"I'm giving the
both
finger."
sides.
Yeah, I'm giving the finger to up, and I'm using art to do it. I'm
Yeah.
using clever art forms to give the finger to both sides. And I think people need to have that in their lives, because, they're so busy wanting to go to one side or the other, but there's always this side of freedom where you're able to
Mm.
be liberated in laughing out loud at someone else's tragedy. I know that sounds bad, but I mean, sometimes art is cruel. Sometimes comedy is
That-
cruel. And we
and
need to
that's
remember
that's
that.
a way to pull both sides together, I think. And I
Right.
think right now in history is the best time to try to find commonality between both sides.
Right.
If there was a way, if there was a magic button I could push, I would push that. And maybe you're right, Clyde. Maybe it has to do with humor, doing it through humor, and making fun of the stuff that we're just getting tired of. All right.
Right. I've always had this idea that if it bends, it's funny. If it breaks, it's not funny. But
Mm.
if it bends and stay bent, it can be funny for a long time. And I think that's the thing, is that people aren't into the idea of bending anymore. They want to either see it break, or they're too busy worrying it's going to break. But what they need to do is they need to be led in this direction where bending the world in a different shape, or throwing something together that just, you're sitting there going, what in the hell is this? I think people need to start having that in their lives, because they're too busy getting hit with a cudgel of what would be reality. And we need to take reality and turn it on its ear. I think that we've waited too long, Chuck. I think that, I wish people grew up with a lot of people like me. I'm sure there are a lot of people that did, but I'm just saying, a lot of people that don't know anything about weird TV, I always say to them, they missed out on a very important time in their time of growing up, entire and being exposed to this type of weird humor and weird behavior.
Well, exactly. It was like with me, I had Fire Sign Theater.
Hmm.
That was my high school uh, escape into total weirdness. It was on the radio in Miami for some reason.
Wow.
And I think that and the TV series The Prisoner just set my entire life in front of me. The Patrick McGowan series, The Prisoner, really influenced me, and especially if you look at the last two episodes, if you can understand them. That's what I had in my childhood that set me forth. You had weird TV, and you're right. We need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I think we do. And you bring up Firesign Theater. I remember Nick Danger Third Eye was one of my biggest. What I loved was Nick Danger. I actually did a series that was on public radio called, and it was a big dick joke, and it was called Peter Fleck's Hard on Crime, and it was basically a big dick joke that we did, and it was hilarious. Everything had some sort of a reference to the penis for some reason. I just thought it was funny, and somebody aired it like late at night in Salt Lake City. Everything that was, I swear, blatantly weird and blatantly risque, I had something to do with, and I felt like I was doing something great. I felt like I was contributing to the delinquency thoughts of many people in this country. And I think we need to have that more, with a little bit of humor. And sometimes that comes out. I do a show called On Beyond Zero after I do Ground Zero, because I'm very serious with Ground Zero, because I want to create that theater of the mind. But afterwards, I just want to just lay loose and just open up and laugh out loud at some of the things that are going on in the world. And I think we don't have that I don't think we have that enough. So I've been, they're telling me that I need to take a break. So I will take a break right now. I mean,
Okay.
it's just so nice to be talking to you again, Chuck. And
Thank
it's
you.
kind of like we're brainstorming right now. It's awesome.
I know.
love it.
I think we've got some plans.
We've got some plans. like we're just like kids in the candy store. So we're going to take a break right now. Chuck Serino is with us from Weird TV and also scoring a number of movies. Producer extraordinaire, someone who influenced me in my childhood growing up. I don't know if it was childhood, but young adulthood, I guess. Chuck Serino with us on Channel Weird. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. On the phone with me is Ronnie from GetTheTea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
You know, a lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's tagline, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea, TEA.com.
Fantastic. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain. And the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Chuck Serino is with us today on Channel Weird. I'm Clyde Lewis. He's worked as a producer, director, filmmaker, videographer, animator, special effects technician, and, of course, a composer. If you've got a penchant for budget horror films, or at least horror films that are the late night fare that you really enjoy, Chuck Serino's had a hand in a lot of them. One of my favorites is 976 Evil. of course. That's one that you've been involved with. I love that film.
Yeah.
And
Give the soundtrack. I'll send you the CD.
soundtrack. Oh, please. That'd be
Yeah.
great, because I do love the soundtrack, because, again, I'm always looking for strange music and things to add to my show with a lot of the montages I do. So
I have a ton of music. You can
Yeah.
use my music. I've got a ton of music you can use. All kinds
great.
of stuff.
Well, I mean, because see, when I came up with the show back in 1995, the idea is that I wanted to make it sound like an 80s B horror film. All of the sound, but it wound up sounding, it depends on, how montages are put together. I have a producer now that does them. I taught him. He's like my little monster. I taught him everything I know. And since I don't have a conversion type of software for my computer, I bought a computer that they said, oh yeah, you can do production on it, and it can't. So I hope I'm not getting stale in my production, because I love the production qualities and the things. Like I said, I mean, a lot of inspiration goes from the horror films, Pink Floyd albums, Negative Land albums, and
Yeah.
of course, a lot of things that you did with Weird TV, and putting that all together. Let's talk about movies for a moment. I've worked with independent film companies like Troma, and working with Lloyd, did the Toxic Avenger for the last episode. They're going to do I guess a mainstream release of Toxic now. And I was just curious, how did you get started in the horror B movie soundtrack world? How'd you get introduced to that?
That started back in 1974 when I met Jim Wynorski in New York. And Jim is one of the most prolific directors in Hollywood. Still working. We just finished Bigfoot or Bust together. I shot it for him. But I met Jim because of Ennio Morricone, the man who scored The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And Jim and I both had this penchant for Ennio Morricone. And we stayed friends for many, 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 many years because of that. So when he went to work for Roger Corman, doing promotion and designing posters for him, he got a chance to direct his first film, or his first Roger Corman film, Chopping Mall, about robots. Remember Chopping Mall?
Yes, I do.
So I was directing TV commercials with Shadow Stevens, the Federated Group commercials I told you about before. And Jim calls me up and says, Chuck, do you want to score a robot movie? And I had been playing around on synthesizer for years, just doodling. It was my hobby. And so I said, yeah, I could try that. And I scored Chopping Mall and found out that I had the chops to be a movie composer. I didn't know that. So that led to 70 plus movies I've scored through my life. And I'm working on one. I'm working on a Western right now. And so I'm still working. And that's how that started, was with meeting Jim in a record store in Times Square. Well, actually a friend of his, and then his friend introduced us, and that's how it all started.
To Enrico. Yeah.
What's that?
To Enrico Morricone?
Ennio, E-N-N-I-O.
Ennio, yeah.
Ennio Morricone.
Ennio Morricone. Yeah, I don't say Enrico.
That's
Ennio.
okay.
The reason why is because I wanted to say that my wife and I actually had a Pandora channel dedicated to him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird. We did. We had one for also, what's her name? Pilaf. And she's that French singer.
Adagio?
No, her last name was Pilaf, I believe. I don't know what it is, but we used to have these weird Pandora channels that, and that's funny because whenever I'd make my montages, I had these weird Pandora channels, but I always go to my Pandora channel and say, okay, what strange song can I play today? What strange thing can I put in my show today that people have never heard of? And that's another thing too, is that, like I said, it's a time where I remember waking up and hearing the Flying Lizards doing Money on a radio station. I'm thinking the world is changing.
Yeah.
The world is changing. MTV comes along, and I just interviewed Gerald Casale of Devo, and he was saying that they were making videos like what you were doing. They were making videos long before MTV came along, and so
they were.
It's wise idea. Let's do MTV. And all they had Ashes to Ashes by Bowie. They had a Rod Stewart video, and all they had were Devo videos. And so they would play like in rotation, Devo and Rod Stewart and David Bowie. And I was just thinking to myself, that's how it begins. Because like you said, you're venturing into territory that you can have free reign because no one else is doing it. That's the beauty.
Yes. And we're there now too.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
Yeah.
I think a whole new generation has to be made aware that, because we have live action role playing now, we have cosplay going on in a lot of these Comic Cons, we have conspiracy cons, alien cons, we have all these other places where people gather together just to be weird, and there's not enough coverage of these
Yeah.
get-togethers, really. I mean, I remember when you'd watch the news, the local news, they would always set aside time for one weird story. It was some guy who could basically summon UFOs,
Yes.
or somebody that could, that did something strange. In fact, I actually knew a guy. His name was Wolfgang Gossett, who they called him Ghostbuster #1. He was this Antioch priest who used to go to places and exorcise houses, right? And so, come to find out, okay, this guy taught me everything I knew about doing paranormal investigations and shows, right?
Wow.
So he dies, and then I had to go into the hospital because I had cancer and I had to get that all taken care of, right? So I heal. I'm in a coffee shop one day. This guy comes to me and he says, "Did you know that a guy that you associated with on his deathbed said he was DB Cooper?" And I said, "Who's that?" And he said, "Wolfgang Gossett." And they showed me a picture and I freaked out. I'm going, "Oh my God."
Holy mackerel.
Everything I've ever been taught, I taught by this guy, and he could be DB Cooper. So, my world is weird. My world is full circle. And I guess it's because I got to know the right people. And you're one of those people. I just, getting to know the right people, getting to know the people who know just exactly that pinch of salt or that pinch of sugar or those sprinkles and maraschino cherry that you put on that sundae. That is what is missing right now.
Yeah, it's missing, but there's a kind of an issue with this because I have pushed the envelope a little bit on Facebook, and I get a lot of hate for it. People are not understanding the sense of humor that we had back in the 90s. I know you do, Clyde, but there are quite a few people out there that are living in such fear. Their funny bone is buried, and they can't see the sarcasm or the irony in some of the material that I'm putting out there now. And it's kind of it's discouraging. It makes me want to stop doing it. So maybe you can inspire me to keep doing it. Because
you should. I mean, okay, look, as long as there is a South Park, there's got to be a Chuck Serino. I mean, think about it. I met Trey and Matt in Park City, and they were there to get an award for Orgasmo. But yet they were showing Cannibal the Musical, and they were discussing doing other films. And one of the things that I really appreciated about Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is you went to that movie and people were so afraid to laugh out loud at what they were seeing on the screen. In fact, I think it was Roger Ebert that said, "I went to the movie, I felt uncomfortable watching it, but then I bought a ticket again and sat there and laughed out loud because it was liberating." And I think that's what people are looking for, the freedom to laugh, the freedom to look at things and go, "Wow, that picture is kind of crooked." I mean, it's not just the cherry on the top of the sundae, it's the pickle on the top of the sundae that we need to do. It's the idea that why is there a pickle on that sundae? And then they eat it and they go, "That isn't so bad. Why didn't I have pickles on my sundae?" It's like the idea of Sriracha ice cream. I never understood that concept, but I guess they have it. I mean, the idea
What's
that
Sriracha? What is that?
Sriracha sauce in your ice cream. You know what Sriracha
Oh.
is, right? Yeah. Think about that. That to me is bizarre, but yet people say, "Yeah, it's good. Try it." No, I don't think so. It's still a possibility. Anything is a possibility in this world now, but we just got to know how far we can go. We just got to know, what abstract thing fits in that. What is that round peg that fits in that square hole? And it just basically fits just a little bit, pushing it in there just to make sure it works.
It rubs a little bit as it goes in.
Yeah, it rubs a little bit, but it's okay. It's stuck there. So
Yeah.
I just want to know what that is. And I sometimes, like I said, I went from being that type of thing back in the 1990s to being a little bit more serious. But I would love, as a sideline, to go back to being that weird guy from the 90s, to go back and be producing material. I mean, it was the Mad Magazine, Cracked Magazine, Church of the Subgenius, Devo type of attitude where it didn't matter just how weird it got. It was still funny. And you're like going, "What am I watching? What is it that I'm doing here?" But for some reason, it just has this flavor that I kind of like, and it's something that I can't put down.
It's like a
that's
missing
basically-
link.
Yeah.
It's like putting a puzzle together. I think a lot of it just comes out of pushing forward and doing whatever comes to mind without thinking about it.
Right.
A lot of it comes that way. It's like, instead of thinking things out around a conference table like they do so much on television and movies today, it's like, how about those independent thinkers that were allowed to just think it up on their own? I think we've got to get away from the committee decision-making creative world. It should be individual voices instead of committees. And I don't know why I went off on that little tangent, but I think that was the secret sauce of the old days, is that you had empowered individuals rather than committees sitting down telling each other they're wrong.
Well, and another example of how, I believe that this can work is, Family Guy, of course, had that kind of attitude when it came out. Ren and Stimpy had that attitude when they came out. And of course, now, I just don't understand how a generation that was raised on Family Guy or a generation that was raised on South Park are getting so damn offended about everything, because it just seemed to me that, and even All in the Family or some other show like that, back then, it was okay to laugh at the morons. Back then, it was okay to say, are you kidding me? You really believe this? Well, let's do something to send it up. Let's do something that people will watch and go, oh, come on, you can't be serious. Well, yeah, it's like what Robert Anton Wilson said. He says, what was it, Fort? I can't remember who it was, Charles Fort or Robert Anton Wilson said something to the effect, I could be kidding, but I'm very serious about what I kid about. And I think we need
to be either one of them.
Yeah, I think we need to be in that mindset. Yeah, I may be joking about this. I may or may not believe in it, but you know what? I'm damn serious about investigating it. I'm damn serious about putting it up for people to see and scrutinize and to laugh at.
Yeah. Well, when I was interviewing Robert Anton Wilson, he came up with quite a few cool little sound bites that sounded just like that. And I still have the video, never released it, but I still have this video sitting there. It's something that was going to be part of Weird TV, but it was too informational. It wasn't funny enough. He got a little serious there. Anyway, I could talk about it for a long time.
Well, I interviewed Robert Anton Wilson just before he died, actually.
Oh, you did?
I think it was either Reverend Stang of the Church of the Subgenius, and I think Mark Mothersbaugh and several others were getting behind a video where he was giving his final thoughts before he passed away, because he had a stroke. And I interviewed him, and he was speaking very quietly on the show. And somebody called, they were complaining. I said, F you. I said, well, I'm interviewing Robert Anton Wilson. Back off, because I had such a very soft spot in my heart for Robert Anton Wilson and his books, Illuminatus Trilogy, Cosmic Trigger. I've read all those books, and again, they shaped my attitude and my thoughts about a lot of things. And I think people are missing that part in their lives where they're liberated by the idea of thinking outside the box, and I don't think we do that enough.
Outside the box, way outside the box, because that's where all the creative thought is happening right now. They want us, and if you watch network news, they want everybody in that box. They have placed everyone in a little box right now, and they don't want them outside that box. They've told them, don't go outside that box, everyone. Outside that box, you're going to find things you don't want to find. Well, we are outside that box, and we've got to get inside their box.
Yeah, we certainly do. And I just think that playing in the margins, I think people would find that there's a whole new world where you play in the margins, a whole new world where you're told not to go in those margins, but it's like, the forbidden zone. You go into the forbidden zone and you wonder, well, it's a whole new world here in the forbidden zone. What was I missing? I remember when I first moved to Portland, and I was doing Klingon karaoke at the time. I had a guy who dressed up as a Klingon.
I went to your night. Didn't we show up?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
We showed up. Yes.
So we
still have all that video.
Yeah, we had Klingon karaoke that we did back then. We did a bunch of other things that we did back then. And I remember I would never be able to explain to anybody what I was doing in Portland, Oregon, where I'm sitting here in a bar surrounded by stormtroopers, Klingons, and a woman dressed as slave Princess Leia doing karaoke at a downstairs bar in Portland, Oregon. I don't think anybody would have. And it's one of those things that, if people look back on fondly, they say, yeah, I went there once and it was kind of interesting. We're going to take a break right now. Got Chuck Serino with us, Weird TV, and various other wonderful films that he's been a part of. And we're kind of, free form talk right here. We appreciate you joining
Freeform.
Channel Weird. We'll be back. Playground called Aftermath. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, research groups, documents, and a news aggregator. In addition, we're hosting other Ground Zero friendly podcasts like Conspirafact with Wes and Bill, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Pair Awareness with Mr. Gates and Isaac Weishaupt, Opposing Perspective with James Ponder, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and several more shows. Mobile apps for Android and Apple are available too. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month. The yearly special for new subscribers during the month of July is only $79 a month. You save almost $40. Sign up now by going to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain, and the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
On the phone with me is Ronnie from GetTheTea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
You know, a lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's taglined, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea, McminnvilleUFO.com.
Fantastic. We're back with Channel Weird. Chuck Serino with us. So, Chuck, it's not all that dire, I don't think. I mean, I was thinking, ho, ho, ho to you, too.
Yeah,
Ho,
I
ho.
just wanted to make sure everybody went out and got their Santa suit for the Santa Rampages this year.
Yeah, they do Santa Crawl in Oregon. Usually
they do?
Santa Crawl. Yeah, I got my suit just for that, but I dress up as Krampus sometimes too. That's another thing, man. Is
Yeah.
that I think I'm responsible for bringing Krampus back, and the reason why is because there was one drunk night at a bar where I had a colleague of mine. He said to me, we were doing a Christmas party, and he said to me, Clyde, you need to tell a story about something bizarre about Christmas. And I said to him, I said, okay, Rick, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, drunk. I'm a little drunk at this party. So I got up at this bar. It was called the Mount Tabor Bar. I'm telling everybody about this story that my aunt used to tell me. She was from Munich, Germany. My aunt told me the story about Krampus. And so I was telling the story about Krampus and how he was the demon of Christmas and blah, 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 blah. I'd tell you the story. The bar was so quiet. I felt like I brought the room down. And so, stuff like that. I mean, Krampus, we try to do a Krampus party every year too, just something that is different rather than the same old Christmas parties and what have you. But I was going to say things aren't so dire because I've been noticing lately some people are really getting their names out there, and you're seeing their stuff, but you're not really knowing who they are. Like, for example, Davey Force. I don't know if you ever work with him, but Davey Force's material, you should check that out. He just recently did Gerald Casale's video, I'm Gonna Pay You Back. And you need to see that video because it's really well done. It's kind of a rotoscope animation. Davey Force has been involved with like TV Sheriff, which is very weird TV-esque. You should see TV Sheriff. You can find it online. It's called TV Sheriff. And there's also Davey Force. It's another guy that I look at. There's Emergency Alert System. They're a group, EAS, I think they're called, Emergency Alert System. They're another band that I freaking every once in a while. And I've been noticing, too, that Al Jorgensen does a lot of great stuff with Ministry. And, of course, Rob Zombie, who does a lot of great video, who, you look at his material, and it's right up there with the weird TV stuff. And even Ron had commented, my producer, we were watching, I've been watching the American Horror Story, and their openings are not necessarily weird TV material because there's no humor in them, but they have that. If Weird TV just decided they wanted to be evil and cruel and misogynistic, you would have the opening to American Horror Story.
Oh my gosh. My doorbell just rang and I know who it is.
Who is it?
It's my mother's nurse. Can I go get it really quick?
Yeah, go get it quick. But I'll just wait here and we'll wait for Chuck Serino's mother's nurse. That's quite funny. I never thought that I would be in an interview where he'd have to go find his mother's nurse. But anyway, okay, that was quick.
My 92-year-old mother is right on the other side of that wall, and I'm her caregiver. So.
Oh, okay. And so her nurse showed up, and you had to get through the door.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's awesome. So I mean, so I guess asking you, are you planning or will you plan in the future to maybe do something that would be along? Because I know that I think Night Flight right now is streaming, and they're kind of they were out there the same time as you, but they weren't as weird. They were interesting.
They were very interesting. They were part of the influence. Okay, they were because I saw music. They play music videos that MTV wouldn't touch.
Exactly, like Skunk and Nancy. I remember my first exposure to Skunk and Nancy was watching Night Flight, and there were some other videos that were really bizarre that I watched too that they had. But yeah, I mean, there's Night Flight that's streaming right now, but they're not making anything new. They're going back and they're streaming old stuff. Because I remember watching a interview with Eric Carr rather than Peter Criss, and I was like, wow, that's very dated. But do you ever have these fantasies of doing it again? Because I remember I was watching some of your videos the other day. I saw Donald Trump in a toaster, and I thought it was kind of funny. I was laughing at that. I
did. At one point I was so anti-Trump, and I'm right in the middle now. But I made weird videos. I was doing weird videos about that kind of thing, political videos. Right. But they just don't get the traffic that I wanted. So I think it's about, like we were speaking about before, it's taking something even more mundane that may not be in the public eye and
Right.
twisting that a little bit.
Well, I
Yes,
think
you've actually you've inspired me, Clyde,
oh, thank you.
to look at that again.
Well, I appreciate that because, one of the things I would like to say, and I'll say it flat out, politics are not funny anymore. They used to be.
No.
I mean, back in the SNL days when you could make fun of presidents, you can't do that anymore. And they don't do it well. I remember when I was watching Saturday Night Live and you're watching Baldwin, Alec Baldwin playing Donald Trump. You could tell he hated Donald Trump. And he just like seethed every time he'd play that part. And when it comes to parody or when it comes to satire, you don't necessarily hate or love who you're satiring. You're just roasting them. You're taking some of the things that, are kind of a mild annoyance and you're exposing them. But that didn't happen. It was always the idea, let's use comedy to attack. And it never was funny.
It was mean. It was mean-spirited. And that's the trouble with them bashing, the left bashing the right now. It is very mean-spirited. I'll just say that out loud.
Yeah, it's not funny. It's mean-spirited, and I wish that we could go. I mean, another guy too, Stephen Colbert. He used to be really funny when he was doing the parody of Bill O'Reilly, and now he's just an ugly, scary, angry man who
unwatchable.
Unwatchable because he's just a hate-filled guy. He can't get Donald Trump out of his brain, and that bothers me because I mean, a lot of people can't. Even CNN can't. I mean, my stepson even knows. He said, well, let's watch CNN and see how long it takes before they mention Donald Trump again. And he actually timed it.
My 92-year-old mother can't. She just always about that. And it's like, let it go, man. We have more things to make fun of.
Well, we need to break that. We need to somehow say, hey, there are funnier things to talk about. And sometimes I get to that point where I have to talk about some of these, current events, but I do so with the ground zero twist. I always do that.
Yes,
but
you do.
There are times when I back off and say, I would rather talk about something weird and something bizarre. Like I did a whole show one time about the Illuminati markings on an Oreo cookie. And I did a whole show about that, where you look at the Oreo cookie and there are fleur-de-lis and there's the double cross and all this Illuminati markings on an Oreo cookie. And so he's, are you serious? I go, yep, I'm dead serious. So I called it Oreo Speedwagon. And I did a whole show of the Oreo cookie and how it's made by the Illuminati. And it was a hit. People couldn't believe it. And that's the kind of stuff that I'd like to do. Is that, you ever noticed an Oreo cookie? You ever wonder why it's the most popular cookie? Well, it's because there's Illuminati symbolism on it that mesmerizes you into eating the cookie. And they're as addictive as cocaine. It's like, come on.
They are. They're part of the plot.
They are. I mean, they want us to eat Oreo cookies and get vaccinated. We get the vaccine and eat Oreo cookies. You die. But that's the thing is that doing a whole show about doing a show like that, I prefer more than doing the shows about this horrible world we live in right now. And I'd love to teach people about new things that they've never heard of before. And I think that that's what's missing. It's just the idea that there is a subculture. There is something more to life than politics. There is something more than the day-to-day. Are you vaccinated or you're not vaccinated, or you inoculated or not? Did you get the jab or not? And I think it's important that, and maybe we explore that again. That would be something that I would love to see.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I still have Weird TV on my Facebook. I mean, I created a Weird TV thing, so I'll start putting stuff on there. I have cameras all over the place here. I still have a 4-wheel drive vehicle. I can go out there and find weirdness again.
You should. I mean, I don't know what would be out. Well, like I say, there's a lot of Comic Cons and Alien Cons and there are conventions that are being held every time. In fact, I have a colleague of mine that's producing today who's going to take his camera and just walk around the Rose City Comic Con, and he's going to all the people that are there, the cosplay people, and I miss that sometimes because I don't always get a chance to get out to those things. But we have like the Mcminnville UFO Festival out here that they're going to be having at the end of the month. And it's just one day set aside to talk about a flying saucer that a woman and a guy shot on their camera when they were tending to their chickens in a chicken coop. That's what an event based around something like that.
That's fantastic.
I know that I see that is brilliant.
Yes, it is
brilliant to do something like that. And just to base it and it's the second biggest turnout since Roswell. I mean, Roswell is going to be celebrating, I think, its 75th anniversary this next year. Somebody heading out to Roswell in July of next year. But it's just that idea that there are so many things going on where people celebrate their weirdness. Mothman Festival out in West Virginia, they do that every year. I love Mothman. I'm a big fan of Mothman, and there are so many things to tap into that if we just had cameras on it, if we were just to show it, and show that there are people that have these, weird, I guess, indulgences or these
Yes.
guilty pleasures that they want to look at and watch. What's that?
Quirkiness. And you mentioned it before about TikTok. If you go through, there's all kinds of crazy fun videos there. People
TikTok's
with huge
hilarious.
imaginations going on.
Right. And I have a friend that's so addicted to TikTok, and every time I see him, he sits down with me and he just goes over the TikTok stuff that he sees.
I do that with my mom.
Yeah, and I watch it and I laugh and I'm going, where do you find this stuff? And he goes, oh, it's on TikTok. You should subscribe. And I go, I don't know. If I were to watch TikTok all day, I wouldn't get anything done. But still,
what is the hesitation, Clyde? I mean, everybody I know has a hesitation towards it's TikTok. It's
addiction. That's what the hesitation is, because I am so addicted to weird things, watching weird things happen. I would get up in the morning. See, I do something I call the scrolling of doom. And I wake up every morning and I scroll through my phone, thinking to myself that I'm going to find something scary, to talk about. And then I go back and I read Drudge, and then I read my Facebook page, and I read my Twitter, and then I get up and take a shower, and then I have a cup of coffee, and then I sit in front of the computer and write my show. And that's my routine. But if I were to wake up and watch TikTok, I probably wouldn't get out of bed.
You're right. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you feel, when you wake up in the morning, do you feel more like putting your opinion out there? Or does that wane during the day?
I have always been a guy who, I'm glad I can put my opinion out there, but I'd much rather be in the background making someone else or focusing on someone else and looking at what they contribute to the world. And I've always been that way. I started as a producer. I did well as a producer. And then one guy said, hey, maybe someday you should be the main talent. And I said, I don't know if I can do that. And I do it. I'm very happy that I do it. But I would love to be a part of something, much like Weird TV. I'd like to be part of something that I can say, didn't we entertain them? Didn't we put them in a mindset where they thought outside the box and they did something remarkable with it? And we're inspiring a whole group of younger people. They're going to go out and make that kind of impact rather than having to, roll themselves around in all the political claptrap. But that's what I want to see happen.
Yeah. Well, they have the cameras now. They've got everything. The production you can do on this thing. I mean, there's Video Leap. If you don't have it, every video person should have Video Leap on here. It's cheap, and it gives you full on editing with graphics and everything. And that's something that aggregating from other people is you set these things up, and then all of a sudden they're just sending you stuff and you're using it. So that could be something that's put together. What's
the thing that Vines? My stepson used to watch these. It's called Vines or something. I don't know if
they're around anymore.
Yeah, they were good. They were great. I don't know.
They would disappear.
Yeah, and those were always good too, because he would play them for me and I would laugh out loud at some of them. And that's the thing, is that we're not really laughing anymore at things. We're just basically looking at them critically and then giving our political opinion.
Let's write a comment on this one. This wasn't funny. At 2 minutes in, I didn't laugh. And that's what they're commenting like that. It's like they're getting their yucks.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of liberation in laughter. I think there's a lot of liberation in seeing things that are bizarre, and that's art. It's art.
It is art.
I think, and we've seen a lot of things that have impressed us over the years, and we go back, we watch them again, we see them again. So I see it in a whole different light now, and you're like going, well, that's what art is. Every time you see it, every time you observe it, it changes, and your attitude changes about it. And I think we need to have more of that kind of brain fodder than being presented with CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. I think we need to go beyond that. We do.
Well, they're just regurgitating the same vibe from the last 5 decades.
Right.
They're not moving forward. It's
nothing different.
And they're stuck. These people putting out information on television are stuck in this thing where they have to please a client. They're commercial people.
Yeah.
And so they're now in this cycle of constant lying just to stay on the air. With about 10% of actual news each day.
They're just making it up as they go. It's adversarial journalism. It's also pack journalism. It's something we were warned about when I went through journalism school and I was learning. Anyway, Chuck, I really thank you for being on Channel Weird, and it was inspiring. Hopefully, we'll inspire each other to do something remarkable.
Yes.
I have a feeling we will, and I really thank you for being on the program today.
Thank you, Clyde. It's been a total pleasure.
Good.
Very stimulating.
Yeah, it's been, like I say, one of my inspirations in my life, and I've been so happy to be able to talk to people who've inspired me over the years. So thank you for joining us on Channel Weird. We're going to come back next week. Be sure to go to aftermath.media today. We have a special look at 9/11 over the years, the 20 years of 9/11. So join us for that. Coming up on aftermath.fm at about 2:30 today. So join us for that. We'll see you soon.